Hello, ProCon team, and welcome to the very first episode of The Pulp, your go-to podcast for staying connected, informed, and inspired at work. I'm Bob Gresh.
And I'm Maddie Bonikowski.
And we'll be your co-hosts, guiding you as we dive into exciting updates, industry trends, and stories from right here at ProCon. We're thrilled to kick off this journey with you, where we'll be bringing valuable insights on a regular basis, including key updates and a little bit of fun along the way. Whether you're tuning in on your morning commute or during a break, these episodes are designed with you in mind.
So why are we starting a podcast? We want to bring everyone together. We want everyone to feel connected and informed and do that in a fun and engaging way. So we're starting this podcast to do just that. We are going to have a variety of topics such as leadership tips, wellness ideas, employee spotlights, success stories, interviews with people, anything. And we're looking for suggestions.
Yeah, really suggest that any of our employees that have ideas for content of this podcast to submit those to the Pulp at ProConUSA.com. We'll be reviewing any submissions and we'll reach out to employees whose suggestions have been selected.
We plan to keep our podcast short and sweet, so if you send in a suggestion that you want a 1 hour long interview with the CEO, I don't know that we'll honor that, but maybe we can get away with it. 10-minute interview with him.
That's a good point.
Yep.
That's what we're going to try to keep these podcasts at, about a 10-minute length. With that in mind, let's start with some updates from the first quarter of 2025. First, we'll talk a little bit about our Vireo coating product, which we've been doing research and development on for the better part of the last 2 years or so. Currently, we are working on coating paper straws. I don't know how many of you have tried to use paper straws. How about you, Andy?
I have never, it's never been a positive experience so
Not
far.
a really big fan.
Until
Our Vireo coating. So obviously the issue with the paper straws is they work great they sound great in theory, don't work as good in practice because they tend to disintegrate. But the coating that we are working on in our coating business unit, the Vireo coating product, is designed to allow those straws to last, not to disintegrate a few minutes after putting them in your drink. So it's something that's going to impact not only you, but your friends and family along the way.
Yeah, and we're planning on sending samples out to each location. So if you see them in the break room, give them a try and send us some feedback. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. No better individuals to test those products than ProCon employees. So I think we'd also like to bring folks up to speed on some of the initiatives that we've been rolling out in Appleton that will be coming to a location near you.
One of those being Project Phoenix. So Project Phoenix was launched when Jason Scott, our new general manager here in the Paper Valley, started with us. He's been working on that. It's a combination of updating and just making sure we're on track to have long-term best practices in terms of policies, practices, and procedures. So some of those initiatives are being rolled out here in Appleton first, such as uniform changes. Yeah. Bob, do you want to speak to that a little bit?
I absolutely will. Before I get into that, just want to make sure that everybody's aware of why we're calling it Project Phoenix. If you aren't familiar with the bird, the phoenix, legend is that after it fell, it rose from the ashes. And not to suggest that ProCon has fallen by any means, but we do want to essentially strip everything down to the studs and build it back up from square one. Right? One of those things that we're looking at, not looking at, but rolling out here in Appleton, is a new uniform policy. As counterintuitive as it may seem, the purpose of the new uniform policy is to eliminate the overuse of high visibility clothing. If you go on the floor, Maddie, it's really a sea of random high visibility out there.
Right. It blends in, and you're so used to seeing it that they don't really stand out as much anymore.
Yeah. And that's the point of high visibility, is to make someone or something that doesn't belong stand out. Right. So in Appleton, we'll be changing up the color requirements of the clothing that our employees wear. With maintenance staff, we'll now have a more formal maintenance uniform that's being provided by a third-party vendor. All other hourly staff will be wearing blue shirts, except for our new employees in their first 90 days. They'll be wearing orange so that we can identify folks that might need help, training, or anything else that you might need in your first 90 days. Supervisors will be wearing green, and the vests that have become so prevalent on our floors across all locations will no longer be permitted to be used by staff that's working near machinery.
Right. Yep. We're going to reserve that for any visitors, vendors.
And office personnel as well.
Yep. People that aren't normally out in the production area and don't always know what to look for, and just it is going to make them jump out so we can keep them safe and say, hey, you're not supposed to be over there and we want you safe, so stay in this walkway, or
absolutely,
we can call them out and identify them easier.
Make sure Bob Gresh stays out of harm's way when he's on your production floor. All jokes aside. Another thing that we are rolling out in Wisconsin, or I should say has already been rolled out in Wisconsin, is our cardinal rules. I should talk a little bit about the development of those. You may or may not know, Appleton has been working pretty closely with OSHA as of late to ensure that all of our guarding and machinery safeguards are up to speed. In working with them, they have made a strong suggestion that there be a list of work rules that are specifically dedicated to employee safety. And in order to develop those, we actually started our first safety committee in Appleton.
Yeah, it's been going great. They've been working hard for the past 2 months, meeting bi-weekly. And they have worked on these cardinal rules and making sure that they meet the needs of ProCon and making sure that all of our team members stay safe.
Yeah, 100%. And you will find as they're rolled out at your location, they're essentially common sense rules, right? We're not putting them in place to have additional reasons to write people up. We're putting them in place because it really establishes the culture that we're looking to put into place going forward at ProCon. And that's a culture where we look out for each other, where we can feel safe and know that those that are working around us are working safely to keep us that way.
Right. Along with that, just a side note here, if you do see something unsafe in the area that you're working in, call it out, bring it up to attention. Make sure a supervisor is aware, the operator of the machine. Don't use any part of the equipment that you feel is truly unsafe. We'll bring it up, we'll investigate it. If it's valid and has concerns, we'll work towards getting that fixed.
Yeah. If you see something, say something.
Yes.
And if you've said something to someone and it seems like it's not being followed up on appropriately, continue up the chain of command, whether that's your plant manager, general manager, myself as HR director, Jason Scott as the corporate safety director, any number of individuals that will make sure that these concerns are addressed.
Yep. Well, you have a voice, and we will listen and hear you out and make sure that we're able to keep you safe, because you are our priority, our number one focus, and we have to keep you safe.
Absolutely. Employees, people will be our primary focus as we go forward. More to come on that in future episodes. But before we go, we also want to take an opportunity to share some fun facts about paper throughout this podcast journey that you might not be aware of. Maddie's got one prepared right now.
Did you know that paper can be recycled up to 7 times before the fibers are too short to use?
It's a lot of times.
It is, yeah.
It makes me wonder how many times you'd be able to repulp something out of our coating business unit.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll find that out in the future too.
Another podcast subject.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to our first episode of The Pulp, brought to you by ProCon. Remember to check in and hit play on the next episode, where we'll dive into safety best practices, celebrate some employee success stories, and start to delve into the suggestions that we get at The Pulp at ProConUSA.com. Till then, stay safe, stay curious, and keep making ProCon great.